Hi, it's Lucy, and today I'm here to do a video on the worst books I read in 2023. This is not going to be as, vitriolic as I have had this kind of video in the past. In 2022, I didn't do this video or my favorites video because I didn't feel like I had really read enough. This year, I read more than I did in 2022, but it's still not as many books, so there's just not as room for me to have read a bunch of books that I hated, because since I wasn't reading as much, I was more cognizant of picking out books that I, thought I would like more. Or not that I'm saying in the past I would pick out books that I thought I wouldn't like, but I was just more willing to give it a chance because I knew I was going to get through it pretty fast. But I still have a few books to talk to you all about. It's just that this is more of a video where, I ranked all my books, took all the ones that I rated less than 3.5 stars, and this is what that is basically. And that being said, let's get into it. So this video I'm kind of doing a top 5 or bottom 5, I guess, but then I have one honorable mention just because I wanted to mention it, I guess. I've already talked about this book, I think, in my mid-year book freakout tag, and I recommended it there because it made me laugh a lot, and it did make me laugh a lot. The book is Several People Are Typing, and I actually would recommend this. It's just so weird that it kind of has to be in my bottom list because the ending of it really turned me off. Several People Are Typing by Calvin Kasulki is basically this weird, surreal book where we follow a man named Gerald, who's a mid-level employee at a New York-based public relations firm, and somehow his consciousness has been uploaded into Slack. And so it follows him trying to get out of Slack, and it has a whole bunch of weird things because none of his coworkers believe him when he says that he's in Slack. They just think he's doing this weird long joke. It's just real interesting kind of commentary, or I don't know commentary, but it definitely came out of the pandemic when everyone was on Slack all the time. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. Just the ending of this really kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. Didn't really like it at all, but the overall vibe of the book, this is definitely, if you're gonna pick up a book off of my worst rated list, then this would be a book to pick up. But yeah, now on to the actual top 5. We're going to do this in reverse order, I guess, where the the last book I talk about is the worst book I read in 2023. The next 3 books I have to talk to you all about are all short stories. I waffled on whether to include them in this list or how to include them in this list because they are all very short. They are part of the Amazon Original Stories Out of Line series. Amazon will occasionally do a series of short stories written by rather well-known authors. They all have a theme, as a short story collection does. This one, the theme is women on the verge of a breakthrough. And I read all 7 books in this collection, and 3 of them somehow ended up on this list. I guess 4 out of 7 didn't end up on this list, so I guess that's a decent track record. I would have preferred if none of them did, though. I was planning to do a video on the collection just because I thought that would have been interesting, but I ended up never doing it. So this is the negative half of that review if I had ever done it. So the first story I want to tell you all about is Sweet Virginia by Caroline Kepnes. This follows Shelby, who is struggling with parenthood, marriage, a passive-aggressive mother, and unemployment. But she also has a sweet escape in her beloved Hallmark movies. When a secret admirer promises to sweep her away into a world of those same romantic tropes, Shelby is sorely tempted. But this rom-com dream has a whiff of conspiracy. We just follow this woman. She's a new mother. Her own mother has moved in to help her with the baby, but she makes her feel very inadequate. She also feels inadequate in her marriage because she's unemployed and everything surrounding that. And basically something happens having to do with Hallmark movies. And the reason it's on this list is, once again, the ending. For me, most stories can really be messed up by a lackluster ending and also be saved by a really great ending. But unfortunately, this one was messed up by a lackluster ending because I was enjoying it up until basically the end of it. My review was every story needs an ending, and this one doesn't have one. Yeah, didn't like that part of it. I did feel like it fit in the collection. It was just, I just didn't like the ending. The next one I want to tell you all about is Bear Witness by Mary Gateskill. The description of this is, in the wake of a brutal crime, 3 people cross paths in this unflinching deconstruction of moral uncertainty, shifting perceptions, and sexual violence. We follow the accused rapist, a woman who's on the jury, and the woman who's the victim. So the reason it's on this list is I just found the story hard to follow. Obviously, it follows the trial of a rape, which can be hard to read, but it wasn't that. I think the choice to have 3 narrators in this short story, which again was under 30 pages. Just made it really hard to like follow along, to really feel anything for the characters to be like fleshed out so you could really have the kind of discussion I think the author was trying to have. So yeah, I just wasn't really enjoying it. Maybe if this was a longer story and the people were a little more fleshed out, like I could have enjoyed it more, but just as it wasn't my thing. And the last book in this collection that will make it into this video is Shine, Pamela Shine by Kate Atkinson. This follows a newly retired teacher who's finding it hard to muster up enthusiasm for her exhausting post-divorce dating rituals and an uneasy relationship with her emotionally stunted live-in son. But there's a surprise in store that could challenge the status quo and make life interesting again. So this was just, once again, it felt a little bit nonsensical towards the end. Like I said, the ending really makes or breaks the story, and in this case, I felt like it broke it again. It just turned into like a really hard left and right, left, right, up, down, sideways. It was weird. I didn't like it. It's not that I don't like weird stories, it's just when it comes out of nowhere, it doesn't really seem to make sense. I can't really tell what the story is trying to tell me, so I don't like that. Next, we will move on to books outside of the series. The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the second book in the Inheritance Games series. I was gonna say trilogy, but it's not a trilogy. So I can't tell you the synopsis for this one, but the synopsis for this series overall is we follow Avery Grams, who ends up getting plucked out of her high school one day and told that she is inheriting $40 billion from some Texas like mogul, dead billionaire now. He's dead, and he left his entire fortune to her. In order for her to claim it, she has to live in his house along with the rest of his family who already live there. So the story follows Avery as she picks up and moves into this house, has to deal with these 4 quote-unquote handsome brothers and also other family members who don't want her there, are like, why were we disinherited? And she has to solve the mystery of why she inherited this, because she has no relation to this man as far as she knows. And that's also why the family is questioning things as well. The first book was really fun. I haven't really gotten a chance to talk about it on this channel, but I like ate that book up. And so I immediately jumped into the second one, which picks up right after the end of the first one. And this was just not as good. It didn't give me as good vibes, as fun feeling. I enjoyed the mystery aspect, but like the romance was getting heavier and heavier, and I was like, why are we here? And the ending of it was pretty convoluted. Like I said, I didn't like the romance. There's a mild spoiler that I feel like more people should talk about when discussing this book. I'm like, why are we not talking about this? It's weird, right? So I'll get to that at the end. But just the overall conclusion was just very meh. I don't know how there are 3 more books after this. I probably will read at least a third one eventually, but finishing this kind of left me satisfied, and also like just not itching to read the next book in the series, because I was like, why? What else are we discussing, really? So I don't know. I have an idea of what the third book is about, but I'm just like, did we really need to explore that? I don't know. And the spoiler part, you can skip ahead. There'll be a time skip to the next book, I think, in the description box, and the book will go away because it's the last thing I'm talking about for this book. Basically, everyone thinks that Avery is potentially their cousin. And yes, she would technically be an adopted cousin, because they realize that this is really spoiler territory. Do not watch this if you haven't read the first book or this book and you don't want to know. They think for the majority of the book that Avery is their uncle. The 4 boys basically is their uncle who died in a fire, and they find out that their uncle was adopted. But that is still your family member. You grew up thinking that was your uncle. Your mom considered that man a brother. Like, so Avery, for all intents and purposes, is your cousin. Now, towards the end of the book, in this convoluted way, we find out that Avery is not this man's biological daughter, but also in an adopted way, he considers her a daughter. So everyone's being adopted everywhere. So why are we having romance? That is what I'm not understanding. The majority of the book, these 4 boys who are heartthrobs, quote unquote, think that this girl is their cousin, and still everybody is throwing themselves at her, and I'm not understanding. This is just not for me, this kind of romance. The last and final book, and also the worst book of 2023, would have to be The Christmas Murder Game, which really slid in. I wanted to read a bunch of Christmassy books around the end of the year, so I did. I read a few. This is the one that made it in because it was so bad. We follow Lily, who is invited back to Endgame House, which is the name of the property for some reason, in order to play the Christmas game. But Lily has no intention of going back there because she hasn't been back since her mother died over 21 years ago. But now she has some incentive because her beloved aunt sends her a letter before she passes away that if she goes to the Christmas game and solves it, it will lead to the identity of her mother's murderer. So Lily now has to go and play this game at this estate with her estranged cousins, who are all there because this year's Christmas game's real prize is Endgame House itself, since, like I said, her aunt had passed away. She was the owner of it, so she's deeding it to whoever wins this game. Now she's stuck in this house for 12 days as they're snowed in, the phone lines are down, and no one is getting in or out. Lily will have to keep her wits about her because not everyone is playing fair, and there's no telling how many will die before a winner is declared. So yeah, honestly, that doesn't sound that great to me, but I was really in the mood for like a Christmas mystery and I couldn't get the Christmas appeal in time. It wasn't good, okay? There was just so many things. This is a mild spoiler, but it's revealed that Lily is pregnant pretty early on in the book. It's just weird to me. There was no reason for that, really. Like, it was just another thing for Lily to worry about, I guess. I'm not saying people can't be pregnant, but it's just not something that I really love to read about in books, I've discovered. This also is like a personal problem. This was definitely much more melancholy than I thought it would be for like a Christmas book. But yeah, it's really sad. We mostly mope with Lily about how her mom died. She has not dealt with any of that trauma whatsoever. She can barely be in that house. Like, she is having panic attacks being like near where her mother used to sleep and things like that. It's been 20 years, and I'm not saying you have to get over your mother dying, but you should be able to like see a room that your mother once occupied. So yeah, it wasn't giving cozy mystery at all, which is, you know, a personal problem, okay? I can't fault the book for that exactly, but it did lessen my enjoyment. The real problems were that the writing, not good, not very good. There's like those 5 basic things of a story, and one of those is setting. The setting, very horrible. I didn't even realize what time it was set in. For a lot of the beginning of the book, I thought it might have been set like further in the past, but then like there would be slow reveals of like cell phones and things like that, computers and certain things. So then I realized, oh, it's not actually set that far in the past. And like sometimes like an ever-present setting can work, but this one, it just was a little confusing. There was a lot of like just very odd dialogue that also made the time and place seem a little older than it was, which also added to the confusion. Like I said, I didn't really like Lily as a main character. She was kind of a whiny baby. She was supposedly so smart, which is really annoying in a main character for everyone to think that someone's so smart. Also, all the characters, kind of horrible people. Most of the characters, I should say. Nothing about the setup of what happened makes sense. I guessed who done it about halfway through, but I didn't know their like motive, and their motive did not make any sense to me. I get that this is like an expensive plot of land, but I don't know, it didn't make any sense, and the pacing overall was not very good. I was really bored until about halfway through, and then I became engaged in the plot, mostly because I was just like waiting for something to happen, and then something finally did happen. Just wasn't really my cup of tea, didn't really enjoy it, didn't like it, wouldn't recommend it. I'm not going to read any more of this author's books. It seems like she does a lot of these Christmas murder mysteries, but based on this one, I would not go to any of those other ones. Gonna have to look for some more Christmas mysteries. If you can recommend me a Christmas mystery besides the Christmas Appeal, I have actually already read that. Let me know in the comments down below. And also, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please give me a like, and also in the comments down below, leave a thumbs down emoji since, you know, worst book. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye!